jumping on questions before anyone had a chance to speak. She rambled on for several minutes. It wasn't balanced, in my opinion. I wish that I had access to this in my 20s or in my 30s. I just watched 4 doctors who are experts in female health on the Diary of a CEO. I'm going to share my biggest takeaways, opinions, and things that I felt could have been improved for women over 40. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm a 44-year-old mom and certified fitness coach with over 9 years of experience helping women get lean, strong, confident as they age through strength training and smart nutrition planning. Let's go. First off, for some context, we've got 4 doctors: Dr. Vonda Wright, orthopedic surgeon; Dr. Mary Claire Haber, menopause specialist; Dr. Natalie Crawford, fertility doctor; and Dr. Stacy Sims, who's a female physiology and training expert. Here are some of the points that stood out to me.
When it comes to managing your PCOS, targeting insulin resistance and inflammation are really the key. Start by focusing on your gut. The foods you choose to eat, they can be both helpful. They can also be very harmful if they are ultra-processed foods that are even causing more inflammation and worsening.
Great that you emphasize gut health and inflammation when dealing with PCOS. Some of my clients struggle with this as well, and we have seen the biggest improvements just by choosing anti-inflammatory foods, more fiber, cleaner foods, and high protein. So food really is medicine.
In addition to sleep more, that is when your body fights inflammation, fights insulin resistance, actively decreasing stress, exercise.
Some of the most overlooked basic regimens to better health, and this applies across the board. So you feed your gut with good ammunition. When you sleep, that's when your body can get rid of the bad guys and repair with the best quality food sources. And then you manage your stress so you're not flooding your body with more bad guys for it to fight off.
Building and using skeletal muscle is one of the most effective ways to combat insulin resistance.
I have personally seen the benefits of lifting weights and building muscle, especially in the last 9 years of my life. I have seen it transform so many of my 40 plus clients. So I can eat more sugar and not gain fat because I've gained muscle. Muscle just changes how sugar is processed in your body. And I am so glad to see that now doctors are encouraging women to build muscle. I also read Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's book Forever Strong on muscle being the organ of longevity. And she talks about how muscle just clears glucose from the blood and it improves insulin response. That is such a great book. Highly encourage you to go and check that out.
We're having coffee for breakfast. We don't eat till midday. The gut reaction is that we're going to starve ourselves, which is the opposite of good. You don't have the energy to do the kind of exercise you need, overtraining, none of which are going to solve the core problem due to PCOS or in any stage of a woman's life.
Take note, ladies, many women are still fasting in the morning, doing fasted training. I see this in so many weightlifting groups. Could have made faster training work in your 30s. But in your 40s, you are pushing your body into a stressful state without feeding it. So you're going into your workout with low energy and then you can't push intensely enough to build muscle. I find that intermittent fasting works really well for men, but it is just not recommended for women, especially if you're over 40.
We want to think about how strong we can be and how much muscle we can build, because muscle is a massive metabolic health as well as bone. So when a woman's like, I'm just having coffee for breakfast, I'm going to hold my fast, cortisol is going up, going to get hungrier, then you're going to learn not to respond to that hunger, end up craving more simple carbohydrates in the afternoon, moving incidentally less and contributing to poor sleep. We want to build muscle, sleep well, and that requires food.
She is so right. Muscle needs food. That's why when you just have more muscle, you can eat 2,500 calories or more and still look lean. Like my abs will still show at over 2,000 calories. Whereas when I did not have muscle mass years ago, I had to keep eating less and less, even 1,200 calories just for some lines to show. Because you don't just need more food to build muscle. Muscle needs more food just to exist. So if the goal is to drop body fat, you should absolutely focus on fueling your body to grow muscle, because that is your fat loss engine, instead of trying to starve and then having to eat less and less.
We see a higher percentage of PCOS in successful female athletes.
Why?
So we're putting in some more short, sharp, high intensity to get that post-exercise response of anti-inflammatory growth hormone response that then bring down total body inflammation.
I didn't know that there was a higher incidence of PCOS in athletes. Stephen asked her why, but I don't think she heard, or it would have been interesting for us to learn about that. Also, yes, short bursts of high-intensity interval training does reduce inflammation over time. It can help with insulin sensitivity, mood, cravings, energy, a lot of the main drivers of PCOS, right? Which is why I include 6 to 8 minutes of all-out high-intensity interval training once a week with jump rope. But this can have negative effects if you overdo it, and it can actually increase inflammation. I know this because I did that in my 30s and I suffered for it. So short, intense, limited frequency, especially if you're also lifting heavy or you're also doing other forms of cardio.
And then we're very careful about food intake and when we're doing it and what kinds of food, so that they don't have to go down the route of oral contraceptive pills, because to them has an effect on their performance.
This is a big one. I've spoken about this before.
The leading athletics coach stood up and said, I know when my athletes are ready to perform on the world stage when their periods stop. No, that's the time where your athlete is getting ready to crack and be injured. It's still pervasive even in the fitness industry that losing your period is okay, because that means you're training hard.
So I worked with a bodybuilding coach who trained stage athletes in my 40s. I got super shredded. My period was skipping every month. So it was 60 days instead of like a 28-day cycle. And when I raised this as a concern, he said this is totally normal and I shouldn't be worried because all his female athletes go through this. This was a big red flag for me because missing your period means that you are losing bone mass. I'm here, over 40, past my prime bone building years, and the last thing I want to do is speed up bone loss. You can grow back bone, but it takes years and you need very specific diet and training strategies. So I'm here to tell you that getting super shredded at the expense of losing your period is just not worth the long-term damage. You can still get in shape by fueling your body properly and keeping your cycle steady.
The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 30% of women aged 15 to 49 worldwide are anemic.
In our clinic, we are looking for 60 to 100 for a ferritin level to be considered optimal. Very different than the baseline for keeping you out of a hospital versus you functioning at your absolute best.
This is so interesting, right? Because we're being told your iron isn't low, you're in the normal range. But what normal actually means is the average of the general population, which is now more sedentary and sick. They're not comparing your results to what is a good baseline for you to function at your best.
Normal in medicine means common, not non-pathological. Norms shifting, meaning we're getting sicker as a population. We're willing to accept lower levels, although they're not optimal for health.
Before you jump on any iron supplements, consider increasing your iron through whole foods. So some of the best sources are red meat, beef, bison, chicken thighs, turkey, shellfish, liver, which is one of the most concentrated iron sources, and leafy greens combined with vitamin C for better absorption.
Girls are not cycling normally. We build bone from 15 to 25. We're producing all kinds of inflammatory cytokines, which halt bone development. We don't have enough estrogen. We're going to shut off our testosterone.
And we're not exercising.
No wonder I have 20 and 30-year-olds with no bone density that are then going to go into perimenopause and lose another 20%.
I literally just played this so you can understand the implications of not lifting weights if you're in your late 30s and 40s, because the combination of weightlifting, impact training, and eating enough protein, that is what's going to save your freaking bones, ladies, as you get into perimenopause and especially menopause that literally destroys your bone mass.
I wanted to be thin. Thin was healthy. That is what I learned in medical school. I would have fed myself, lifted weights, stopped doing so much cardio. I was chipping away at my bone density, raising my inflammation level, my ability to resist the Alzheimer's and dementia that runs in my family.
This is so sad. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was the only woman in the weight section. And over the past 2 to 3 years, I would say I've been seeing so many young women lifting weights, trying to get stronger, build up those curves, flexing, taking up space. And honestly, it makes my heart so happy because as you can see throughout this whole conversation, it really isn't just about how you look. The long-term implications of chasing strength are huge for longevity. But now I'm seeing that culture shift again to skinny being glamorized.
That's a mentality that we grew up in. Supermodels of the 90s, heroin chic, which is the worry now with the GLP-1s coming back, ballerina body. It is worrisome.
We brought back that unhealthy vibe from the 90s, the visible hip bones, the ultra lean physique. We've gone back to be smaller, be thinner, eat less. These are actually some of the trending terms on TikTok. Skinny aesthetic, frail girl aesthetic, almond moms telling their daughters, you don't need to eat that many calories, just snack on some almonds. Skinny talk is an actual corner of TikTok where the algorithm pushes thin, extreme dieting content. So this is worsening body image, increasing disordered eating, and really targets young girls and teenage girls. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and this scares me because what a journey it took for me to heal from that toxic self-detrimental mindset. And I'm doing everything I can to teach my daughter to focus on strength, confidence, not shrinking. And the GLPs and Ozempics have arrived just in time to support the new narrative. For those of you who are on GLP-1s, you've got to eat more protein, you've got to lift weights, and you have to build lifestyle habits if you want to minimize long-term damage.
So wearables are not designed to capture women's physiology. Most women, about 5 days before their periods start, they will never look recovered. They're not stress resilient because of the way the algorithms are reading this change that is natural. It doesn't mean that she's not stress resilient. It's what the wearable is saying.
I use a watch that tracks my sleep, steps, heart rate, and I've seen women get in their heads about the readings. I love that she pointed out the inaccuracy and the cause because they are not specifically made for women. Also, you see some watches are very sensitive to movement. So if you move a lot when you sleep, your watch will detect that as you're awake. And then you get this diagnosis of poor sleep and bad recovery the next morning, but maybe you did sleep well.
This is why we do not let athletes use wearables leading up to a peak event, because they feed into what the wearables are telling them. And it's not true data with regards to how their body can actually perform.
I had a client who would change her mood based on what the watch said. So she would convince herself that she was in a lousy mood because her watch said that she didn't sleep well. So it's good to be aware of this and sometimes take a break from letting a device dictate your mental state. I've had some of my best workouts when my watch said that I would be low on energy.
Most people don't seek out a lot of help earlier, but they should just assume that they're perimenopausal anytime after 35 they don't feel like themselves and start down a road of learning or investigating or let's feel better and what do I need to do about it.
I love this. And I did go through this at 41. I didn't feel like myself and I spiraled down this dark road of depression and weight gain, fluctuating cycles, constant sickness, and confusion about my body that was letting me down after spending pretty much my entire life trying to be my healthiest. But when I hired a coach and I changed my diet, training, movement, and I worked on my mindset, going for morning walks, getting sun on my face, listening to positive podcasts, all those issues went away. And I transformed into the best shape I have ever been my entire life, even better than my 20s and 30s. So while I agree that a lot of changes like fat gain and cognitive decline happen in perimenopause, women have to relook at their lifestyle and clean that up post, because this is a phase where our body is like, I'm putting my foot down. I can't tolerate alcohol, starving, living off coffee, stressing out, or doing hours of cardio. You need to level up your lifestyle to get through this phase.
The most likely time for a woman to commit suicide is between the ages of 45 and 55. We have an increase in mental health disorders, either pre-existing getting worse or new onset, of about 40% across the transition.
It is crazy, right? I've actually heard this on a podcast before. So our brains can't keep up with the wild hormonal fluctuations during this transition. This explains. Our partners don't understand this, although I'm sure most of them want to support us. Communication really is key here. My partner understands this now when I lash out randomly or have mood swings, because we've had conversations around what is going on with my physiology at 44. But most women think that they're going crazy, right? And they don't learn what's actually causing this. And then they end up isolating themselves or destroying their relationships because of this. So have the conversation of what's really going on with your body at this stage of your life. Secondly, many scientific reviews show that exercise is a powerful treatment for depression and can reduce symptoms of depression. Research shows that exercise can work as well as antidepressant medications or cognitive behavioral therapies. So this is crucial, right, for us women 45 to 55 during perimenopause. Especially strength training is one of the most evidence-based tools available to support mood, brain health, and emotional resilience during this transition. Lift weights and combine that with creatine to support your brain health and mood.
Or do I need to consider hormone replacement therapies?
You might.
It'll slow the rate of change,
Okay.
but it doesn't stop it. You still have to put in your lifestyle modifications to improve and or stop the sarcopenia and the bone density loss.
Hallelujah. That's all I got. If you're over 40 and struggling to drop that belly fat and tone up, I've put together a full guide that combines the best training structure and diet specifically for 40 plus women. It has 6 weeks of home and gym workouts for all fitness levels, meal plans that are anti-inflammatory and help you build muscle and drop fat. You can click the link in my description to get instant access.
I made the decision I was going to do all the tools, learn to lift heavy again because I was a runner, change the way I do my cardio, my diet. I am so committed to sleep. The quiet times of de-stress.
Dr. Vonda Wright, in my opinion, is kind of in between Dr. Sims and Dr. Haber. While all of them agree that lifestyle choices are essential, Dr. Sims is predominantly about going all natural, diet, training, lifestyle changes. Dr. Haber, in my opinion, pushes heavily for hormone replacement therapy. And Dr. Vonda, right here in the center, says, I'll use all the tools. But first, I'm going to clean up my lifestyle and then I'll augment it with hormone therapy.
But I also decided to optimize my hormones with estradiol, progesterone, very small doses of testosterone. That makes me feel like myself again. It takes lifestyle plus or minus this decision.
And being healthy her whole life wasn't enough because that definition changes in perimenopause. Even in my case, the healthy things that I did in my 30s were harming me in my 40s. I want to point out also that several doctors these days are building an entire brand and business around menopause, when if you actually look at it, they're all talking about lifestyle choices being the biggest driver in this case. Then consider hormone therapy. So I love that Dr. Vonda Wright emphasizes learning and educating yourself on what a better lifestyle actually means over 40, upgrading that lifestyle first, and then choosing whether or not you need HRT to supplement that. So here are the areas where I think could have been better. When I saw this panel, I was super excited. 3 doctors here over 50, and their content is mostly focused on the demographic of women over 40 and aging. However, they only open the actual discussion about perimenopause and beyond at the 2 hour and 41-minute mark.
Well, we don't have a single large-scale study done on the treatment of perimenopause. If I go into PubMed, 1.2-ish million articles for pregnancy. Menopause, it's about 99,000. Perimenopause, we are about at 8,000.
So the irony of not having enough research or studies done on this population of women, and it's literally what happened on the podcast. Majority of the conversation was for women under 40 in their prime reproductive years. And this was mainly fueled, in my opinion, by 2 things. One, Dr. Natalie Crawford, fertility doctor, jumping on questions before anyone had a chance to speak. She rambled on for several minutes.
She went on for 10 minutes about all the lifestyle change, which is amazing.
She cut them off with what Dr. Haber is trying to say. And since she specializes in fertility, that's where the bulk of the conversation stayed. Getting pregnant, endometriosis again, which is something prevalent in women in their reproductive years, birth control, even sperm health. Dr. Haber was able to get some things in. Dr. Sims and Dr. Vonda, who I was most excited to hear from, given their background in muscle and bone building, hardly got a chance to speak. And 2, Stephen, bless his heart for organizing this, but his constant questions about his, I believe, 33-year-old partner pretty much made the entire podcast about that avatar. So while it's great that this podcast was so informative for women in their prime reproductive years under 40, having this amazing opportunity to hear from 3 doctors that focus on aging and the older demographic was lost. So it wasn't balanced, in my opinion. There is a part 2 to this podcast, and I'm really hoping that they actually talk about perimenopause and beyond, considering how it yet again got pushed into a corner in this podcast. So let me know your thoughts. 3.5-hour video. So I highly recommend checking the whole thing out. It was very educational. And I wish that I had access to this in my 20s or in my 30s. I'm open to having a healthy discussion in the comments.